this free live session brought to you by Talent Sprint. And for today's topic, as you are aware, we'll be dealing with one particular question type in the verbal ability section, which is fill in the blanks. So we're going to look at what strategies or concepts that we can apply to make or approach this particular question type and make sure that you get maximum marks possible in this particular question type. Let me share the PPT. Okay, so let's quickly read the directions. The directions we have is each question below has one or more blanks, each blank indicating that something has been omitted. So choose the words for each blank that best fits the meaning of the sentence as a whole. Okay, context that we have in front of us, the first one is at least a single blank context. So let's look at it. I will write a letter to you tentatively, dash the date of the program, and the options given are involving, guiding, urging, indicating, and propagating. So every time when it comes to fill in the blanks question type, there's always some sort of a clue in the context, right? The clue will kind of give us an idea what can be the closest in meaning. So let's understand these words first given in the options, right? Involving, when I use the word involving, I mean including somebody or something, right? The clue word in the context is tentatively, right? And if you look at it, the main thing is revolving around this person is going to write a letter, just feeding in that one particular detail. And why is he saying tentative? Because it's probably not confirmed, which the program date, right? So tentatively, he's going to kind of point out this is the date as of now. This is what we have come up with, but it's not fixed yet, right? It's not confirmed. That's why the word tentatively. Tentatively means approximately. This could be the date. So involving is not the right word. Anyways, guiding. Here, again, one of the other clues in the context is he is putting down something in a letter, which means the more appropriate, if I have to substitute this blank in with my own words, I would say point out or giving some sort of direction, right? Saying, okay, maybe people can plan ahead if they at least know, okay, this is probably the date around which the program is assigned, right? So the word that gives me the meaning from the options is urge someone. You are almost coaxing them to do something, right? And that is not the meaning that the context requires here. I'm urging someone. I'm kind of almost like, encouraging them to do something or coaxing them to do something. You're urging, but that's not the meaning the context requires. Indicating, on the other hand, means you're pointing out, right? That's the closest in meaning to point out. Indicating, giving me some sort of a signal. This is the date. Propagating, again, is a completely different word, right? Propagating means you're spreading some sort of information for the purpose of promotion, right? It could be any cause. So that's again an unrelated word. So the right word in the context is indicating. Okay, so I will write a letter to you tentatively indicating the date of the program. We're just talking about the date here. So point out or giving you some sort of direction so you can plan ahead. Indicating is the closest word and option. So basically what we did is here, applied a little bit of context clues. There were clues in the context which helped us, and it's also equally important for us to understand what the context is saying. There is no other additional information given here in terms of guiding, right? Or urging for that matter. Let's move on to our next context. So those of you who said indicating, correct. Let's look at the next one. The conference was so successful and your style of presentation was so dash that everyone liked it. One of the other strategy when it comes to fill in the blanks is looking at the context and seeing if the context is giving me a positive or a negative meaning. It's giving me a positive meaning, right? How do I know that? I have words in the context. Clues in the context helping me. Successful. Everyone liked it, right? So they're talking about the conference and they're talking about the style of presentation, which means I can close my eyes and eliminate option 1, which is a negative word, difficult. But all the other words, trustworthy, wonderful, conducive, valuable. Now we have to apply a little bit of logic and understand what is the meaning that the context is giving for us to identify the closest word, right? If you look at the context, we are not talking about any particular trait or a characteristic of a person, right? So trustworthy is not the most effective word in the context. Wonderful. Yes, it simply talks about why was the conference successful, because its style of presentation, everyone liked it. Right? So it's as simple as saying wonderful, meaning it was great, it was very good, it was excellent, right? Those are the adjectives that I can quickly relate wonderful to. So they are referring to how good the style of presentation, and because everyone liked it, the conference was successful. What about conducive? Conducive means favorable, productive, right? Again, just like the previous context, we don't have enough information in the context urging us to, or pushing us to identify words like conducive, valuable, right? Because it just simply says the only closest meaning that you can associate quickly is with wonderful. I need a word that talks about how good the presentation was, how excellent, right? And everyone liked it. So it's as simple as that. The context is saying the conference was successful. The reason is the style of presentation was so wonderful that everyone liked it. As simple as that. So conducive, valuable, and trustworthy are not the most effective words, I would say, because the context is not giving us any additional information, right? It's as simple as saying, hey, you know what, I went to this conference, I really enjoyed the style of the way, the person presented the presentation. It was so good, I liked it, right? Valuable, again, we are talking about the style of presentation, right? So that's another thing that you need to keep in mind. When you're referring to the content or what was presented, then it makes sense for you to choose words like valuable. So the most closest word, because we are talking about just the style and not really the content, or there's not enough information. The context is not giving us added information for us to pick on conducive or valuable, right? It's not the most effective words. So the closest in meaning to complete the context meaningfully is wonderful. We're referring just to the style. We moved on to the next one. A dash of directors will finalize this case. Another strategy that we can apply when it comes to fill in the blanks is grouping of words or associated words, right? When I say associated words, I'm referring to collocations. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, right? It's just one concept that you need to be aware of. So when I say collocations, I'm saying these are fixed expressions used by people, right, repeatedly. Fixed expressions used repeatedly in various contexts, right? You definitely will be aware of a lot of collocations. So when I say collocations, I'm referring to, things like regular exercise, healthy diet, matter of choice, right? These are all collocations. Round of applause, right? So another clue for you is the word in the context, which is directors. Usually from the given options, panel, group, band, board, council, what is the word which you will usually use with directors? What have you, maybe you've read some article or read the newspaper, or heard people in the news also. What is the word that they usually associate directors with? This is purely to do with collocations. Now let's look at these, right? If I say panel, right, it could be panel, usually, you say panel of judges, right? The panel who's judging a contest or whatever. Or you could say panel of experts, right? Group of boys, group of girls, group of supporters, right? I'm talking about collocations. Band of protesters, music band, band of outlaws, right? The other word for directors is board of directors. You usually say board of directors or board of trustees, right? This is the usual collocation. Council, student council, right? So we are referring to words that are usually go with this sort of. So when you have, options like this where you're a little confused because everything seems right. However, then you apply the concept of collocations, grouping of words, associated words. That will be the safest thing to do, and that will be your answer. That will be the most effective word in the context. So for this context, a board of directors will finalize this case is the answer. So far, we've looked at just 3 contexts, and we've applied a little bit of context clues, and we've applied collocations, and we've also said we need to understand whether the sentence is giving us a positive or a negative meaning, which will also help us eliminate the wrong answer choices. Let's move on. Our next context, Anuradha has a dash interest in classical music. I'll give you a clue. Looking at our options, wide, keen, high, bright, pleasant, this is also related to collocations. We just saw the concept, right? Associated words, grouping of words. Usually this word goes with this. So if you look at it, one of the other strategy that we need to do is look at the words before and after the blank. That's another strategy that we need to do. Just like how we say, I need to understand if the context is giving me a positive or a negative meaning, we also look at the words before and after. So after the blank, I have interest, right? That's the noun. So I need an adjective which usually goes with interest. Anuradha has a keen interest. That's the collocation here. Hold on to this concept, collocation. Usually in fill in the blanks or close passage, this is a very, very useful concept to apply. The next one. Although Sudha had dash early in the morning, she could not finish her household work. The options are risen, rose, rises, rising, rise. Let me give you a clue. Now this is to do with, when it comes to fill in the blanks, one of the other things that you need to be familiar with or have is your basics in place, right? You need to get your basics in place. When I say basics, I'm referring to basic grammar. So this involves a little bit of grammar. If you look at the options, I have the verbs in different tenses, right? I have present tense, present continuous tense, past participle. So there's a clue again in the context. Sumant and Tanu, I want you to pay attention to the clue. Remember I said you need to look at the words before and after the blank. Before the blank, what do I have? I have had, right? Which means when I have had in the context, right? Had, has, have, I need to immediately kind of I should get this bulb in my above the head like an idea, which means it's a perfect tense, right? When I say perfect tense, I'm saying the action started sometime in the past and it is continuing up till now, right? So for a perfect tense, the form or the structure is had or has or have plus the past participle form. Right? What is the past participle form? The third verb. Verb 3. So rise is present tense. Verb 1, base verb. Rose is past tense. Verb 2. And what is the past participle? Risen. Right? This is verb 3. So for a form, you need to pay attention to the sign, right? Had is your hint word. So obviously the answer is option 1. Although Sudha had risen early in the morning, which means the action of her waking up was obviously sometime in the morning, she could not finish her household work. So the action is continuing up till the point of time, current point of time, now, right? So though she got up early in the morning, she was not able to finish her work now. So keep that in mind. So a little bit of basic grammar also will help you quickly get the answer. So you can rule out had risen. Past participle. Let's look at one more. Reading isn't dash fun as acting in plays. My options are such as this. So this is another question pertaining to where you have to apply a little bit of basic grammar. So can somebody identify the concept here? In the last question type, we saw that the concept was to do with tenses. I had to look at the structure in the sentence, understand that I needed a perfect tense and identify the right verb. In this context also there is a concept. What is the concept? I'm giving you a clue. Obviously it's about grammar. What's the concept here? Or let's see, even if you're not able to explain the concept, it's fine. Let's see if you're able to identify the right answer. So basically what they're doing is, if you look at the context, obviously two things are compared here. One is reading, one is acting. So when it's compared, it either has to be a positive degree or a comparative degree or a superlative degree, right? So positive degree, comparative degree and superlative degree. But we also understand the form of all these, right? So as adjective as. This is the form for positive degree usually, right? Comparative degree. Now let's take the adjective fun. So if it's comparative degree, I would say, you cannot say funner, right? So you use more fun. And for the superlative degree, it will be most fun. Right? Are you following? So obviously here, I don't have more or most. So it's definitely not a comparative degree or superlative degree. So reading isn't as fun as acting in plays. All I need is as here, and that is available in option 2. Right? So there's your answer. A little bit of degree of comparisons. If you're quickly familiar with what they are and what is the form, you'll be able to easily identify the answer, right? Such as would be a wrong option here. Let's look at our next context. His colleagues were happy that he was leaving as he had always dashed them the wrong way. Now, so far, we've looked at whether the context is giving positive, negative meaning, pay attention to words before and after the blank. So, we can either apply collocations or maybe we need some basic grammar. Another concept that we need to be familiar with when it comes to fill in the blanks is idioms and phrases, right? It's all part of vocabulary if you ask me. Collocations, idioms and phrases. So, giving you a clue again, in the context there is a phrase. If you are familiar with that phrase, you will be able to quickly identify the answer for this question. Options: slapped, pinched, hugged, rubbed. The phrase. If you are familiar with the phrase, which clearly some of you are not, then you will not be able to make a mistake in this one. If you say, I rubbed someone the wrong way, which means you're saying you either annoyed them or irritated them or got them angry, right? That's the phrase. That's the phrase that I was talking about. So the phrase is rub someone up the wrong way. That's our phrase, which means we either annoy them or irritate them. So usually the person who's doing this, is not very aware that they are doing this. So in the context, his colleagues were happy that he was leaving. Why? Because this person probably is very annoying, is very irritating, right? So he had always rubbed them the wrong way. If you are familiar with this phrase, you will choose the right option from the given options. Not pinched, not slapped, not hugged. None of those options are giving us the meaning that the context requires. And like I said, the right phrase is rubbing someone up the wrong way, which means you're annoying them or you're irritating them. So next time, one of the other things that I would want to tell you is, if you want to retain what you're learning, start applying them while you're writing and speaking, right? So I'm sure you have a lot of people around you who either annoy or irritate you. Start using expressions that you've learned. If this is a new expression, you are not familiar with this expression earlier, use this expression in your conversation, right? This person always rubs me the wrong way. Or, I really need to tell this person because he always keeps rubbing people the wrong way, right? Let's move on. So idioms and phrases is another concept that will be helpful. So let's look at a couple of contexts with two blanks, right? So far we looked at contexts with just one blank. Let's look at some examples where there is two blanks, where there are two blanks. Let's read. Ever since animals were dashed from circus, performers have been dashed their lives in stunts. So just giving you a heads up, what you can do is, in the context, I want you to pay attention to words before and after the blank. 1. 2, I want you to apply the concepts that we've looked at. One is collocations, context clues. I want you to apply all of that. For the first blank, you don't have to break your head too much. If you look at the options, everything is band, 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 band. So we have that in place already. We only have to worry about the second blank. So, couple of things for you, right? What is our clues in the context? Some hint words. So I have lives and stunts. Okay, and we understand the context. Some of the key words are circus, performers, right? Animals. So ever since animals were banned from circus, which means animals were the limelight. Animals were probably the source of entertainment when it came to circus. But since they banned it, now the whole responsibility or weight is shifted to the performers. So they have to kind of match the animals, right? They have to create the same sort of excitement in the circus so people will enjoy watching the circus. So performers have been, which means they need to up their game. When I say up their game, they need to do something extraordinary so that people will feel the same sort of excitement that they felt when they had animals in the circus. Which means, what do they have to do? They have to do something extraordinary, something different, something exceptional, right? Now, some of the options that you guys came back and said, dodging, plunging, these are all stunts that they can do, right? You can dodge in one of the stunt, you can plunge in one of the stunt. But here, we're talking about their lives, right? The correct option is risking their lives. That's your collocation. You've heard people use this expression in various other contexts. Right? Risking their lives. That's the collocation. So the answer is 4. Risking their lives in stunts. Okay? Not 3. It's illogical. Have been dying their lives. Doesn't make sense, right? Logically. They have to take some risks to make it more exciting, just like how it was when the animals were there in the circus, right? So apply a little bit of logic, understand the context. If you're familiar with the expression risking their lives, you would close your eyes and choose option 4, which is the right answer. Otherwise also, I want you to think how you can figure out what the right answer is. Tulasi, correct. Yeah, let's move on. Ashima dashed her team with a lot of skill, and the dash increase in the sales by the team is a measure of her success. Again, let's look at the context. Understand the context first. Is the context giving me a positive or a negative meaning? Let's answer that first. There are clues in the context which will help you. Lot of skill, increase in sales, measure of success. So, what meaning is the context giving? Positive, which means, can I look at my options? Both the blanks, I need positive words, right? So, can I look at my options and quickly eliminate all the options that give me negative meaning words, right? So, what are all the options that I can quickly eliminate fast? Looking at the given options, I have option 1, dominates poor. Option 2, condemns sudden. Option 3, manages significant. Option 4, directs worthless. Option 5, overpowers exceptional. So if you look at this, obviously every other option other than option 3 is giving me a negative meaning. Fifth option, not just too much positive. See, when you overpower someone, not necessarily it's creating a positive effect. It can also create a negative effect when you're overpowering them, right? So which means you can rule out 5. Dominates poor, out. Condemns, negative word. Worthless, again negative word, right? So having said this, the right option is option 3. Ashima manages her team with a lot of skill and the significant increase, that's the collocation again. Right? Significant increase in the sales by the team. So that's your collocation. Associated words. We've heard people use this phrase repeatedly in various other contexts. In 2009, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government dashed on its election promise to set up an international crime tribunal to try those dash of genocide during the 1971 war. Right? Options: conveyed suspicious, delivered suspected, expressed uncertain, forwarded imagined, and deposited doubtful. So are you able to identify any clues in the context? You can also apply some of the concepts that we've already looked at so far. Okay, let's go option by option. Okay, let's do option 1. So, in 2009, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government conveyed on its election promise. Keep in mind words associated before and after the blank also, right? I have on and I have off after the blank, which means these are prepositions, right? And your clue word is, so this particular, Sheikh Hasina's government has promised something to the people. So what was the action? What was the result? Is it conveyed or expressed or forwarded, deposited or delivered? What's the right word? Delivered on the promise. That's a collocation again. He promised he will do this and he delivered on it, which means he kept his word, right? So in the context also, in 2009, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government delivered on its election promise. So if you're familiar with the verb plus preposition collocation, you'll be able to identify this correct option. Again, look at the second blank. To set up an international crime tribunal to try those of genocide during the... So, someone has been accused of this, right? During this particular 1971 war. So, they said they promised that they would set up this crime tribunal so that they can find out, identify those who are under the suspicion of genocide. So, obviously, the right answer is suspected of. That's another verb plus preposition collocation. Suspected of this thing. Are you following? Not imagined of, not doubtful of, not uncertain if. They are setting up this particular international crime tribunal to make sure they are able to nab the culprit who is responsible for the genocide during 1971 war. So it definitely cannot be any other option other than option 2. Expressed on, conveyed on, forwarded on, deposited on is incorrect collocations. Suspicious of, yes, but the first blank. So though the second blank, some of the words may align itself with the preposition of, we still need the right word completing the meaning that the context requires, right? So the answer option is option 2. Let's look at our next option. Dash 5 days to go for Tamil Nadu polls. Passengers from different dash of life travelling on Kovai Express shared their political views. Options for paths still areas in regions with walks against locations. What's your answer and why? Again, look for colloquial expressions. What goes with the words after the blank? So I have 5 days to go. So sometimes you can just substitute, right? You can say, what sounds right? For 5 days to go, still 5 days to go, in 5 days to go, with 5 days to go, or against 5 days to go. Understand the meaning that the context is giving. Passengers from different dash of life traveling on Kovai Express shared their political views. So let's say there are only 5 days left for the polls, right? So passengers from different... So I'll give you 2 clues. One is, if you understand the context, you'll know what the context is saying logically, right? There are only 5 days left for the polls. So in this time period, people from different dash of life, that's a collocation for you, the expression there. It's an expression, in fact. It's a phrase which has been used repeatedly in various other contexts. Different dash of life are expressing their political views. So again, pay attention to the words after the blank. I explained the context, which means you should be able to easily identify the answers. Okay, so let's quickly break it down. The expression, right, the collocation is different or all walks of life. That's your expression, which means people from all over. Different regions, different places, speaking different languages. So different walks of life. Maybe they are doing from different sectors in terms of jobs, in terms of their occupation, right? So everybody, not just from places or regions, we're talking about, when you say all walks of life, middle class, upper middle class, the poor section, whoever it is, lower middle class, right, below poverty, everybody is giving their view on the polls, which means the answer is option 4. With 5 days to go, with only 5 days left for the polls, passengers from different walks of life. So that's your collocation there, and the right preposition that gives the meaning in the context is with 5 days to go. Yeah, so I'm guessing familiarize yourself with as many collocations as possible and probably get into the habit of reading. I don't think most of you spend time on a daily basis reading, right? If you develop the habit of reading also, you'll be able to spot these repetitive phrases. With 5 days to go for Tamil Nadu polls, passengers from different walks of life traveling on Kovai Express shared their political views. So let's look at this one last question, then we'll quickly sum up the strategies that we saw. In our close relations, it is easy to come dash clever men and women, but dash to find virtuous ones. So another thing is, you could read the editorial section in the Hindu. Education Plus, that's a good section to read. The Hindu is a good source, if you ask me. And read anything and everything. Read things that interest you. Maybe you're interested in sports. Pick up any sports magazine or journal. Read that. Right? Maybe you're interested in only news, political news. You can even read things that capture your interest. So, you enjoy reading. So, obviously, if you look at it, there is a hint word, a but, right? In our close relations, it is easy to come dash clever men and women. So, this is your clue word again, easy. So, in our close relations, easy is a clue word for you, and then I have but as a hint word, which means the second blank obviously will need a word that is opposite in meaning to easy. And if I look at my options, the meaning that is given very, very specifically and effectively is an option 4. Right? And come across is another collocation for you. Verb plus preposition collocation. Come across. Right? That's the answer. In our close relations, it is easy to come across clever men and women, but difficult to find virtuous ones. So, couple of other things that you can do is also pay attention to hint words, right? Hint words that give cause and effect, or in this context, but obviously is giving you a contradiction meaning, right? It's an antonym clue word, which means look for words before the blank, and then because of these hint words in the context, you can choose words appropriately for the next blank. Alright, that's another strategy that you can apply. Pay attention to hint words that give you contradiction, that bring in the meaning of contradiction, or I need same meaning words, synonyms, or cause and reason words, because, as, since. Yeah. So can we quickly do a review of what are the strategies and what are the concepts that we need to remember or apply when it comes to fill in the blanks. So one of the first things that we said is context clues, which means there will be words in the blank, in the context, which will help us, right? So you can have hint words, keywords that will help us. Another strategy is if the sentence is giving us a positive or a negative meaning, right? That will also help us identify the right answer choices. Another one is you need to be familiar with, obviously, basic grammar, right? So here itself we looked at tenses, comparison, phrasal verbs. These all will help. So there is lots to cover when it comes to basic grammar, right? Conjunctions, pronouns. So a good idea of your basic grammar will also help you identify the right answer choice. Fourth one is vocabulary. So when I say vocabulary, I'm talking about collocations, associated words that we saw, talking about idioms and phrases, right? Another thing that we said is pay attention to hint words that give specific meaning. So I'm referring to if I have but, although, while, rather. So all this, which means antonym meaning. So if this is present in the sentence, look at adjectives before the blank and then choose the appropriate word in the following blank, right? If there are two blanks. Also, or, and, these all give synonym meanings. I need words with same meaning. Then you have cause and effect. Since, as, because, giving you the reason for something, right? Cause and effect. So, pay attention to hint words that give specific meaning. That will also help you identify the right answer choice.
In today's session, you will learn a few tips on how to write an effective objective statement in your resume. While it's important to mention your career goals very clearly in your resume, it is not always important to put it under a separate section called objective.
See, we all know that reasoning ability section forms a very important part of all competitive exams, be it banking, placements, right? So, can you guys tell me why is it that this section is tested, or what is exactly tested in the reasoning section?